She laughed and called me her plan B when she thought I wasn't listening. So I left without a word. Now I'm building a life with the one person she never expected, her own sister. I never expected my life to realign itself on an ordinary weekend at the lake. I'm Daniel, 34, software architect, decent cook, and until recently the long-term partner of Vanessa, 31. For almost 4 years we did life together, joint savings goals, split mortgage payments on a condo, the full holiday rotation between her parents and mine. Rings hadn't been purchased, but they'd been window shopped. That Friday, we caravanned 3 hours north to her family's cedar-paneled cabin. In the back seat sat Maya, Vanessa's younger sister, 28, a med school resident. Vanessa's cousins Ellie and Marco followed in a second car. I'd always felt at ease with her family. Her dad and I swapped barbecue tips. Her mom sent me homemade chutney after every visit, and Maya? Maya was the quiet one who spent reunions curled up with a paperback. We shared a handful of pleasant small talk moments, book recommendations, the pros and cons of night shifts, nothing deep. We arrived near dusk. The lake was glassy, reflecting burnt orange sky as loons settled somewhere beyond the reeds. Inside, everyone unpacked groceries, opened windows, claimed bedrooms. I carried in the bags labeled dry goods, set them on the pine countertop, and lit a log fire. The cabin smelled of cedar, smoke, and early summer. Dinner was lazy tacos and canned margaritas. Conversation rolled from wedding gossip. A cousin had just eloped in Vegas, to Maya's latest rotation. Around 11, Marco suggested a campfire outside. By midnight, the cousins drifted indoors, leaving only Ellie and Vanessa on the patio with an open bottle of red. I volunteered to fetch extra wood from the shed. The air was crisp enough to see my breath, and the damp earth smelled like rain that hadn't arrived yet. I took my time stacking logs in my arms, grateful for the quiet after a day of chatter. Coming back along the gravel path, I heard laughter. Ellie's distinctive snort followed by Vanessa's softer giggle. I slowed, partly to avoid eavesdropping and partly because the moonlight made the steps slick. Ellie's voice carried. So, do you think Dan's finally going to propose soon? I stopped by a birch tree, invisible from the deck lights, but close enough to hear. The question made me smile. We discussed timelines only last month. Vanessa laughed, a light, almost dismissive sound. Oh God, I hope not yet. I mean, Dan's great safe. He's like my plan B. The log pile felt suddenly heavier. Plan B? A dozen memories flickered. Her crying on my shoulder after a layoff. Me staying up all night to finish her birthday slideshow. The shared spreadsheet where we tracked how close we were to a down payment on a bigger place. All those hours, those promises. Were they just insurance premiums for her? Ellie sounded puzzled. Plan B. I held my breath, poised halfway between the shadows and the glow of the patio lanterns. Wind rustled the treetops, and for a moment the only sound was lake water lapping against the dock. In that short pause I sensed something shift, not outside, but inside me, like a picture frame tilting on a wall you hadn't noticed was crooked. I waited. The smart move would have been to announce my presence, maybe cough, let them know I was there. Instead I stayed still, heart thudding, logs pressing cold bark into my forearms, wondering what could possibly follow the words I'd just heard. Somewhere across the water a fish jumped, breaking the surface with a hollow slap. Then the ripples faded as if nothing had happened. Was I about to let the same thing happen to me in the quiet night? Vanessa's reply came lightly, like she wasn't saying something that would leave a scar. Yeah, like, if nothing better comes along, at least I'll have him. He's not exciting, but he's stable. I just feel like there's something more out there for me, you know? Ellie didn't respond right away. Maybe she was surprised. Or maybe she was deciding whether to agree. I didn't wait to hear more. I turned back toward the cabin, walking as softly as I could across the gravel, the firewood still in my arms. I didn't want to interrupt them, not because I was being polite, but because I realized I didn't owe her that. Not anymore. Inside, everyone else had gone to bed. The living room was quiet, lit only by the dying fire. I dropped the wood gently beside the fireplace, then grabbed my phone, wallet, and keys from the coffee table. I didn't even take my bag. I just left. The car ride back to the city was quiet. No music, no thoughts I could hold onto long enough to feel. Just the road, winding through darkness, and a dull throb behind my eyes. I stayed at my friend Liam's place, crashed on his pull-out couch, and barely said a word. By morning, my phone had exploded. Missed calls, texts, even a few DMs. Vanessa, where are you? Are you okay? Can we talk? Please, come back. I stared at my phone for a long time before sending a single reply. I'm not anyone's backup plan. We're done. There was no point arguing. She'd said what she said. I just happened to hear it. Over the next few days, she kept trying. Messages swung between confusion and guilt, then blame. Accusations that I was being dramatic, that I should have talked to her first, that I owed her more after all we'd built together. I didn't respond. Instead, I reached out to Maya. Not for revenge, not for comfort, just logistics. We still shared the apartment, and I needed to get my stuff. I figured she could let me know when Vanessa wouldn't be around. I kept it short and respectful. She called instead of texting. Her voice was quiet. Careful. She really said that? She asked after I explained. There was a long pause on her end. Wow. I'm sorry, Daniel. You didn't deserve that. I didn't know what to say, so I said thank you. 2 days later, she met me at the apartment. Vanessa was out. Maya had even picked up cardboard boxes for me. It should have been awkward, packing up years of my life with the help of my ex's younger sister. But it wasn't. We didn't talk much at first. I sorted books and chargers while she helped bubble wrap a few kitchen things. At one point, I found the old Polaroid of Vanessa and me at Coney Island, our first trip together. I held it for maybe 3 seconds, then tossed it in the bin under the sink. Later, when we moved to the storage unit, Maya offered to stay and help me sort through a few things. There were records, photo albums, random electronics. We ended up ordering takeout. That dinner stretched into 2 hours, then into conversation that wasn't about Vanessa at all. She asked me about my favorite authors. I asked her what specialty she was leaning toward in med school. We both admitted we missed Saturday cartoons as kids. It was easy, and maybe that's what made it feel strange. Not wrong, just unfamiliar. I didn't feel betrayed by her presence. I felt understood. That night, after she left, I sat on the edge of the mattress in the empty apartment. And for the first time since the lake house, I didn't feel angry. I felt like I'd stepped out of someone else's shadow, and I didn't plan on stepping back in. Maya came by again a few days later to help me drop off a few last boxes. Afterward, she stayed for dinner, again. We cooked something simple: pasta, salad, a bottle of wine I hadn't opened in over a year. Conversation felt natural, even comforting. There were long silences, but not the kind you fill out of politeness. Just pauses between two people who didn't feel the need to impress or pretend. We weren't rushing into anything. Neither of us had intentions beyond being present. But it didn't take long for dinners to turn into long walks, shared playlists, inside jokes, and late-night calls after her shifts. Somewhere between all that, I started sleeping better, laughing more. I noticed when I wasn't carrying the quiet pressure to be someone I wasn't. It caught both of us off guard. When Vanessa found out a few months later, through a mutual friend who spotted Maya and me at a bookstore, everything blew up. She called me twice in one day, then started texting in all caps. Called me a snake, a manipulator. Said I waited in the wings for Maya, that I had planned this all along. She sent Maya a wall of messages too, accusing her of betrayal, calling her disgusting, warning her she'd ruined everything. It was messy, sad really. But the thing is, Maya hadn't betrayed anyone. She never planned any of it. Neither did I. But somewhere along the way, truth just made itself obvious. Vanessa saw me as a safety net. Maya saw me as a person. And I saw Maya, not as a rebound, not as a gotcha move, but as someone who deserved the kind of love I still believed in. We kept things quiet after that. No big declarations. We didn't post about each other. Just existed in peace, slowly rebuilding something honest in the ruins of what used to be. Months later, her mom called me out of the blue. I braced for the worst. But when I arrived at their place for dinner, it wasn't a trap or a lecture. Just a cautious, awkward conversation over roast chicken and mashed potatoes. Midway through, she surprised me. She said, "You didn't destroy this family, Daniel. You just showed us what honesty looks like. And I'd rather have that than pretend everything's fine." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. Eventually, even the tension with Maya's relatives faded. Her cousins stopped side-eyeing us at family events. Her dad, while still reserved around me, started asking how work was going again. Life slowly rebalanced. Almost a year has passed now. Vanessa moved to another city and blocked both of us. That's probably for the best. Some relationships can't recover, not because of hate, but because the damage makes forgiveness too heavy to carry. Maya and I live together now. We adopted a dog from a rescue shelter. His name's Toby. He's part husky and all attitude. Sundays are quiet. We read in bed, make pancakes in our pajamas, and argue, lightly, over which podcast to play while we cook. It's calm, uncomplicated. I've stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every now and then, I think about that night at the lake house. The way 30 seconds of overheard truth changed the entire direction of my life. If I'd walked in a moment later, I might have married someone who saw me as a placeholder. Someone who thought I was just good enough. But I didn't. Because sometimes, life lets you overhear the things you're not supposed to, so you can stop living in the stories you were never meant to stay in. I wasn't her plan B, because I was someone else's plan A all along.